As an academy owner, you work hard to build trust with your students, their parents, and your community. But trust isn't something you claim, it's something you prove and earn. That's where Academy Safe comes in. We help academies like yours stand out with verified safety standards. Background checks for all staff, U.S. Center for Safe Sports certification, concussion training, defibrillators on site, CPR, first aid and AED certification, security cameras, rank and lineage checks, and verification of business insurance. Join the trusted martial arts registry that's redefining safety throughout North America. Lead by example. Show parents you're accredited with Academy Safe.
Hello, and welcome to My Empty Hands, a podcast about the martial arts, usually focused on Kempo, but we give love to all the martial arts around here. And as usual, I am Reggie Darden, and I am excited to have another wonderful guest with me today, Mr. Jeremy Lesniak. And yeah, we are going to get into his story. For those that may not know, he is the head honcho, I guess the founder of Whistle Kick, and he's got a wonderful sparring gear and T-shirts and all kinds of nifty stuff that he sells through his company there, and then he is one of the co-hosts of the Whistle Kick Martial Arts Radio, and which I had the honor of being on, and just listened to the episode, my episode yesterday, and I was quite pleased with it. Typically, I don't like to listen to myself or see myself on video, but yet here we are doing the podcast thing. So. Check it out if you're at all interested in hearing my story that I've gone over many times, but we'll do it again, and I usually start things off with just giving a little bit of my background. I train in multiple martial arts at this point: American Kempo, Capoeira, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, and Hapkido. I think I missed one, maybe not. I don't know. And I've also done some Taekwondo and some boxing, so I stay pretty busy and well-rounded. I hope. But yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So now we will turn it over to our guest here, and go ahead and tell us how did the martial arts find you? Where did it all begin? And we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah, thanks, Reggie. Thanks for having me on the show. Thanks for coming on our show, which the audience might not find the timing of this as fun as I do, but your episode released yesterday, so that's just cool. I like synchronicity like that.
Yeah, I like that. I'll also go ahead and throw in that. Actually, I think we had to reschedule twice before on having you on. I was going to have you on quite a few months ago.
There was some rescheduling, yeah. We both have a busy schedule, and sometimes the best intentions have to deviate. But we're here now.
I like how it worked out. So
yeah, me too. Me too, for sure. Here, I'm just going to adjust my angle there. I think that's a little better. Okay. You asked how I got started, and I wish I had a better story, because here I am. Martial arts is what I do. It's who I am. You mentioned Whistle Kick, this company that I started, and my story is I think about as boring as you get. I was really young. We were at the town beach, my mother and I. She met the new family that had moved to town. This is a tiny town at the time, I think about 2,000 people. And they happened to have karate experience, and they were going to open a dojo. And my mother introduced them to me, and I was there on day one teaching in that town, and I was 4, and that's the story, right? Like I didn't watch Bruce Lee movies. Ninja Turtles weren't a thing. This is just before Karate Kid. Not that I probably even would have watched Karate Kid. I don't think my mother would have shown a 4-year-old that movie. She just said, "Do you want to do this?" And okay, I had no idea. I don't even remember. I don't even remember that day. I have an image of what it probably looked like based on the place and the people and the way she told it. But as long as I've been alive and remembering things, I've been training. I started training before I went to school. There is nothing else in my life other than maybe, breathing and digesting that I've been doing longer than martial arts.
Nice, nice. Now, had you ever asked your mother why she wanted to get you involved in it, or?
I didn't, and she's passed now, so I can't ask her. But my suspicion, if we go back, was there was a conversation between my mother and the instructor, and it was instructors, husband and wife. Shout out to Beth and John, and I'm guessing John wasn't there, so it was probably Beth with her kids at the beach. Sean would have been 3. Maybe Shannon was a baby. Maybe she was pregnant with Shannon. Like, kind of right. I could find everybody's birth date and piece this together. But I'm guessing it was 2 moms talking. And, I grew up, my parents divorced when I was really young. And I'm going to guess that played a role. That something in the conversation sounded appropriate for Beth to invite my mother to bring me to class, which becomes really fascinating because after me, they didn't start anybody until 5. 4 was just too young for the way they were running their program. And anybody who's taught kids knows teaching a 3 and a 4 and a 5-year-old is all dramatically different than trying to lump a 4 or 5-year-old in with an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old is really challenging. And as much as the story is very generic and maybe kind of boring, from my side, it becomes fascinating because the number of things that had to happen that were abnormal is kind of crazy. My mother didn't like going to that beach. We generally went to a very small beach that nobody else went to because it had practically no sand. But it was quiet, it was private. She didn't like being around a lot of people. And so we'd usually go there. Why we were at the town beach this day, with everybody else, I have no idea. And then the number of things, right? She had to put her towel down near where Beth put her towel and had her kids. And they had to have a conversation. And my mother, wasn't never the most outgoing of people. So I start to look at all these things statistically and whether you believe in fate or destiny or anything like that, that's how it feels to me. That just these puppet strings were pulled. Nope, Jeremy's going to do martial arts.
No, that's exactly why I say how the martial arts found you versus you finding the martial arts, because there's just so many factors where
right.
You're just in the right place at the right time, and you meet the right people. And many of my guests who have made the martial arts their life, I would venture to say the majority of them didn't even want to train. I mean, I had one guest that he was just escorting a lady to a class, and he wasn't going to take the class or anything. He was just, it was the time, like, hey, you don't just let a lady go by herself. And he took her to the class. She immediately wasn't interested, and the instructor was like, hey, you get in this class. And he did, and now he's been involved in martial arts the his whole life, and it's been a thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I always find it funny when people kind of just fall into an art or anything like that, and they didn't necessarily seek it out.
Yeah. It ends up being about people, right? When we think about everybody's origin story with martial arts, it's rarely about the art and more about the person, whether that person was somebody on screen, whether it was an animated person character on screen, whether it was their parent or their friend or somebody told them this was a good idea. Somebody helped the planets line up for them with this. And that's my story, and it's 100% about the people, because I didn't even know what martial arts was. You get some people that, oh, I know about this. I've heard about this. I've read about that. They start to piece together an idea of what martial arts is from usually pop culture. But until they find it at least it's finding the right instructor. I've known plenty of people who have they went and they gave it a shot on day one and it didn't jive. I mean, I have students that come into my school and it's just not a fit, and that's okay. A different person teaching could be a fit with the same curriculum, but everybody's looking for something different because everybody is different. And when you find those personal connections that allow your training to kind of take off and flourish, I know, I'm going to guess just about everybody in your audience knows, it's incredible what can happen in such a short period of time.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. So with this, do you, that first school, do you happen to know the style, and
Yeah.
are you still with those same teachers?
The back half of that is a little more difficult to answer. And I'll answer that first. They continue to live in Maine. Part of the year, we are still in touch. I have not trained with them in a few years. Still look up to them and have had training with them periodically over the last probably 5 to 10 years. Whereas I would say the 10 to 15, maybe even 20 years before that, there wasn't any. But these people helped raise me. When I make the list of people who I consider my kind of extended parents. I mean, Beth and John are very, very clearly on the list. And other than my own mother, Beth was probably the second most influential person in my life. But I started at that school at 14, and I continued training until I went to college, a little bit in the early stages of college. I did not spend a lot of time in my hometown once I went to college. And we don't have to get into that. It's not an uncommon story, right? You just kind of like, I need to go off. I need to be elsewhere. And I had martial arts opportunities there, but it's kind of an interesting dynamic that I grew up in, and I didn't realize it until many, many years later. And it was this philosophy that I was born into, in a sense, that led to a lot of the things that we're doing in Whistle Kick now. That, I mean, these things were ahead of their time. You had two people who grew up in two different arts. He grew up in Ishinryu. She grew up in Kyokushinkai with some Goju influence. And because they both did different things, they were open to different things. So to earn our yellow belt, you needed to learn Pinyon Shodan and Seisan. One from each. And that's kind of how it went most of the way through. You were learning two different sets of kata. And as you got into higher ranks, you're learning two different philosophies. The Ishinryu philosophy is maybe not the easiest for small children. Anybody out there who knows Ishinryu can probably understand that, right? And so I grew up in this environment where it was, what else can I learn? Cross-training was so baked into the philosophy of this school that we didn't have terms for it. It was just people would show up, right? So I'm growing up in Maine in the 80s, and plenty of people are coming around for a few weeks or even the whole summer, and they wanted to train. And there were very, very few schools. I would say through the early 80s, there might have been 6, 8 schools in the entire state, maybe 10. And I say that because I knew all those people. Like you just, oh, there's a school there and there's a school there, and it's changed a lot, but most of those people are still around, which is kind of fun. I've had most of them on my show. So people would come, and somebody would be from, a Taekwondo school or a Judo school or whatever, and it'd be, okay, what can you teach us? So people would walk in these intermediate ranks, and they're thinking, okay, I'm going to come, I'm going to learn karate, I'm going to have a good time, I get to be the figurative white belt in the back. Nope. Everybody was asked to share. And I just thought that's how it was supposed to be. And so we ended up adding, katas got stuffed into the curriculum, and funny enough, that school, even though they're not running it now, has continued to do that. I mean, there's kung fu in that curriculum now, and there's a variety of different weapons forms in there. And it wasn't until I went to college and I went, oh, you mean it's not like this everywhere? I ended up in this offshoot of Shotokan, even though they would have fought tooth and nail to deny it was an offshoot of Shotokan. And they didn't want anybody saying anything. It was the goal was to mimic the style founder as closely as possible, and anything that was not exactly the same was wrong. And I was like, this is weird, because it's so different.
Yeah, that is that is a very big thing in the Kempo world. In that, I always find it funny in that Ed Parker, the father of American Kempo, was known for being outside of the box, doing things differently than the quote unquote traditional. But yet there is a lot of infighting in the Kempo world over those that teach exactly the way that Ed Parker taught, and those that change techniques or change forms or things like that, and people get themselves worked up over oh well, that's not the way Ed Parker taught it. And Ed Parker was like, if you're still teaching this the same way in 10 years, then you're not doing what I want. And so I always find it funny that for someone that was known as not being traditional, when people are traditionalizes art, then there's a problem, and it feels weird to me.
I am unaware of any of, let's call it, the older generation of style founders who said, you should do it exactly like this forever and always. Now, I might be missing somebody, it's not like I've gone super deep, but from the bits of reading that I've done, Funakoshi, etc., not one of them said, you should do it this way forever and always. It was, I'm giving you what I've come up with. And so for me, this kind of leads to this interesting ideal that we have kind of two roles as martial arts instructors. We have those who pass on knowledge and those who advance knowledge. And we need both, because everyone's not good enough, and everyone's not insightful enough to change things in ways that are generally better. I think everybody's got ways that they can make it better for themselves, but not everybody's going to make it better for everyone else. And so they pass on what they were taught. And I think that's great, because then maybe one of their students will advance it. And, the way you're talking about Ed Parker, I've heard Jeff Speakman talk about things very similar, as he's, I am not enough of a Kempo practitioner. I earned my purple belt a few years ago. I'm not enough of a Kempo practitioner to make any claims about Kempo and what happens, other than I do like making jokes about Kempo, because some of my best friends do Kempo, and it's if you can't, if you
There's
can't
some
laugh at
great,
things.
there's great Kempo jokes out there. So
Kempo is the most aggressive form of massage.
yeah, the slapping.
And I
We
get
get
why,
it.
and I get why it exists, right? Like, so I'm not just making fun of it because I'm ignorant to it. I'm making fun of it because I make fun of everything. Make fun of my best friends, right? You don't generally make fun of strangers. You make fun of the people closest to you, right?
Exactly.
It's at least in a lot of traditional male environments, it's a term of endearment. It's how we do it. But as I've heard Jeff Speakman talk about Kempo, he, if I'm remembering correctly, he said essentially what you're saying, that so many people kept what Ed Parker gave on a shelf for so long that it kind of stagnated. And he said, it's time, we have to advance this. And I like the numbering system that he's given to it. He can, Kempo 1, 2, 3, and now he's at Kempo 5.0, which as a nerd, and I know you're also a nerd, we've talked about that before. I appreciate that numbering system.
Yeah, I agree. So just to kind of get my mind around it. So, what would you say are the styles that you've trained in, if you wanted to kind of lock it down?
All right. There are things that I've done a lot of, things that I've done some of, and things that I've done a little of. And the stuff I've done a lot of, these two karate styles, ITF, Taekwondo, Superfoot kickboxing. That's probably, I'm gonna leave just those, depending on how you look at it, 3, 4 in that bucket there. The things I've done moderately, capoeira,
I guess
although,
I guess if it helps make it a little bit easier. So,
sure.
how I qualify it is by systems that I've technically earned some rank in. Well, I guess I can't include the boxing under that, but I trained boxing long enough that I
Yeah.
include it. But like the Taekwondo, I think I did Taekwondo for about a year, and I technically earned my yellow belt.
Hmm.
I wasn't officially awarded it because I hadn't learned all the forms yet, but my instructor knew that I had martial arts experience, and he saw me do all the basic kicks and all that sort of thing, and he's just like, "Oh, well, once you learn the form, I'll actually tie
Sure.
the belt around you." But he's like, "Yeah, you're a yellow belt or whatever." So, I include it for that. But
Hmm.
yeah, the styles that I list are ones that I actually have some sort of rank in, and so that's what I include. So like I don't like my first Kempo teacher. Professor Wally J was one of his mentors, and so we did some small circle jiu-jitsu
Hmm.
stuff, but I don't include that because we didn't really formally train in small circle jiu-jitsu. So
Right.
that maybe clears
Yeah.
up the boundary lines, at least that I go by.
Sure. Sure. And that makes sense. Yeah. So there's my Kempo, which actually was a Kempo Jiu-Jitsu Eskrima, because the small circle Jiu-Jitsu was in there. The Capoeira was in there. A few other flavors of karate. My weapons training probably falls into that bucket. And then on the lesser side, I've played. I've done some BJJ. I've done some judo. I've done a bunch of other flavors of karate, and even some Chinese martial arts stuff. And I I don't claim any knowledge of anything in that bucket. I've just been exposed to some of it. And I think that it's that exposure that, honestly, it's that bucket that I've probably drawn the most from in terms of inspiration as I look at my own training and go, okay, this is interesting to me because it's so different, right? I have this philosophy that, everything in martial arts is connected. Everything that we do is connected. Our forms is connected to our fighting, our basics, all of it. And if you were to think about all the different martial arts skills and kind of like find a way to lay them out on a wheel, like a Trivial Pursuit thing, right? The stuff that you start with tends to be the biggest piece, the biggest pie wedge. And as you go, you're rounding it out. It never fills out, but the more attention you give to the gaps, the better everything gets. So as I spend time, how do I take my existing training and make it more, let's say, fluid, drawing from inspiration from something else? How do I make it more rotational? How do I make it more competitive? How do I make it more meditative? Right? And I all of those things become perspectives or flavors or whatever you want to call it that I bring back to my core training and give me new ways to work on it.
Gotcha. So since you've always kind of been cross training, was there ever a situation, or I should say, did you ever struggle at all with all of these different systems and different things? Was there any kind of struggles in trying to pick up a new set of skills? So when I started Kempo, I started in kind of one flavor of Kempo, and then when I transitioned to the American Kempo that I do now, there were a lot of kind of, I don't know, habits, muscle memory, however you want to call it, that I struggle with kind of unlearning. Kind of the same thing with when I got into capoeira. All the things I was doing in capoeira, I would go back to my fighting stance and things like that. And it's like, no, we don't do that. So anytime I talk to someone that's trained in multiple arts, I ask if they've had kind of struggles with going between them, or has it kind of been all kind of seamless for you?
Definitely not seamless. I will say that there have been some challenges, but it's been a little different for me because I will not train with someone who considers my past experience to be a limitation. I mentioned the school that was kind of an offshoot of Shotokan. I'm intentionally not mentioning the style name because it's small enough that people would be able to figure out what I'm talking about. And I don't want to disrespect them because when I went to college and I didn't have a car, they welcomed me. And for just shy of 2 years, that was where I trained. And I don't know that I got better at much, but I definitely didn't regress because I was still training and I met some nice people, and that's, at that time of my life, that's what mattered. But once I got beyond that, everybody else that I trained with, or I should say that I remained training with, saw my past training as an asset, much in the way that my original instructor said, oh, you know stuff we don't know. How can we benefit from your prior knowledge and experience? And the last time I put on a white belt at a school, I walked in and it was almost, and I'll share, I'm going to sanitize the story a little bit, but I'll share it in that it's a perfect example of what not to do as a school. So I had a friend who was attending a karate school, and she said, hey, I've been going to the school for about a month, and she had a prior black belt. And she said, these seem like pretty good people. Why don't you give it a shot? And I said, okay, sure. I'm always down for more training. And filled out the release form online, which had no question about, do you have any experience? And I show up the first day in a white gi and a white belt. So obviously I know that I'm supposed to do that. My belt's tied right. So obviously I know how to do that. And I'm in the back of the room. I love being in the back of the room. It's my favorite place to be. No expectation. I just get to do my thing. I just get to learn. It's awesome. And across the next month, not one black belt, and there were between the head instructors and the senior ranks, probably a dozen different black belts. Not one of them asked me, have you trained? What have you trained? Why have you trained? The younger rank said, we'd partner up for something, be like, you've done this before. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh. So they never asked me about my prior training. In 4 classes, because it was a once a week thing, there were 3 corrections, because I started noticing this, that some of their students were good at some things. Most of them just weren't. I'm gonna be honest. And that was because in 4 classes there were 3 corrections. I received 2 of them. Imagine 4 hours of training where 3 things are corrected. And then kind of the final straw. This was fast. I love this story because it's objective. Like, there's a number here. As we're leaving class, there are 3 lines and they're holding shields. I have never considered myself to be particularly strong or fast or skilled at any one thing. I love forms, and I'd say if I have a niche in martial arts, I'm pretty good at forms, learning them, presenting them for competition. But nobody would ever say Jeremy is the fastest. Jeremy's a great fighter. I'm versatile, right? I'm good at cross training, right? You can plop me down anywhere, and I can hang and I can learn, and that's what I want. So the premise of this drill is you have 20 seconds to do as many straight punches as you can on the shield. Full traditional, pulling it back, hikate and all that. And the person coaching the drill says, stand in horse stance or whatever stance you want. And in 20 seconds, people are getting 20, 30, 40 punches. I think somebody got 60, and it was like, ooh. And I step up, and I'm in San Chin. And for those of you in the audience who may not know what San Chin is, think like a short ready stance, but one foot's in front of the other, toes are pointed in, because I understand physics. Because if my feet are in a line, a horizontal line, and I'm punching against a thing, where's the force going to go? It's going to push me back. I'm going to have to exert energy to maintain my balance. That's silly. I'm not doing that. I was given permission, as we all were, to be in whatever stance we want. So I step into San Chin. The person holding the shield says, you should be in horse stance. And I said, well, he said we could be in whatever stance we want. He just kind of shrugs his shoulders like, all right, whatever, white belt. You don't know what you're doing. I had 111 punches. Almost double the next highest. Not one person asked me, who are you? What have you done? Where have you come from? Tell us about your experience. And that was the last day I went in. All they wanted was my money. They didn't care about who I was. They didn't care about what I had done. They sent me a couple emails over the next few months. We're running a special. You should come back. No, I'm good.
Yeah, yeah, that just reminded me of a school that I was potentially going to join, and did the little trial class, and it was fine, and then they brought me into a little room there, and the used car salesman mode went on, and it was what can we do to get you into a gi today kind of situation. And yeah, I just remember thinking like, well, I'm just checking out schools and kind of going on a little school tour to try and figure out where I want to go. And
Yeah.
I'll think about it. But that high pressure sales kicked in, and yeah, and they hit me with those price tags and package plans, and I was this is pretty crazy. So these sign up fees are pretty ridiculous, and yeah, I don't think I can do that.
Every school's different. Every school runs their onboarding and their economics differently, and it leads to being a different fit for different people, and that's totally fine, and I get that. And what really bummed me out was the person who started this school and his son. His son was, so we're going back a few years. I'm in my, I think, late 30s at the time. Maybe I just turned 40. And his son was in his, I want to say, early to mid 20s, and he was great. I wanted to work with him. Like, he and I could have, figuratively, of course, done some damage. We could have helped each other. We could have gotten better together. And that's all I wanted. And what it, not everybody's coming into a school, and this is just to kind of tie up my recommendation to school owners out there. Not everybody's coming in with decades of experience, but everybody's coming in with goals. Everybody has a why for training, and that's kind of how we kicked off our conversation today. And if you have the opportunity to ask someone their why, and you don't, you cannot teach them as effectively as you could otherwise. I have a understanding of why every single one of my students comes in that door. From the 6-year-old up to the 70-year-old. I know why they're there. And it allows me to not necessarily change the curriculum or change the class, but to help them connect with the material. Oh, this will help you in this, or this is relevant to this, or this, oh, hey, that was you like doing that workout part because they want physical benefit, right? And if you don't ask, if you don't have those conversations, how can you be as effective as an instructor? And that bums me out, because my whole thing is I want more people training. That's the whole foundation of Whistlekick. We want people to train. And so we want instructors to be as good as they can. And so just this one, and I continue to think of them. They make me sad. Oh, so sad. So sad.
Gotcha. All right, so we, of course, are flying through time, and I'm kind of percolating all of these different things that I wanted to ask you about, and like I say, with pretty much every guest, we'll certainly have to do multiple parts here, but we will. I'm thinking I do want to ask you about. So, a while back, I was part of a conversation where these individuals were talking about a individual that got their black belt too fast and didn't really have the skills that were quote unquote worthy of being a black belt, and they got their black belt too fast and all of this sort of thing. And it got me thinking about what it means to be a black belt, what it means to earn a black belt, what is the, I don't know, maybe standard for being a black belt, since there isn't a standard, not just in Kempo or Shotokan or any art, just in general. I've been asking my guests, in your thought process, in your opinion, what does it mean to be a black belt? What does it mean to earn a black belt? What does it mean to continue to be worthy of a black belt? And of course, there are no right or wrong answers and anything like that. I just kind of want to get an idea of what everybody thinks about this, and maybe that will be a step towards triangulating triangulating what it means to be a black belt. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I am known in some circles as having some of the strongest contrarian opinions on this, versus maybe not majority of the industry, but certainly the louder folks in the industry. For a very long time, that's not a black belt, you're not worthy of that rank, etc., has been used as a way of belittling people that do things differently. I think that is ridiculous and incredibly arrogant, because I'm sure we could find somebody that thinks everybody else's rank and skills are terrible. A black belt is like some manner of academic degree. It is only relevant within the school it is awarded. The idea that there should be a standard is myopic, because how can my black belt in... How do we draw an equivalency between a black belt in Kempo, a black belt in Taekwondo, or now there are plenty of Krav Maga schools that put belts on people. So a black belt in Krav Maga. Instead of putting out the time and energy to try to find some way of applying a universal standard, I argue that in 100% of cases where this question comes up, does that person deserve a black belt? Unless a single condition is met, it's irrelevant and a waste of time. That condition is, are you responsible for their rank advancement? If somebody comes to me and they say, hey, do you think this other person over there deserves their belt? I don't know what they went through to get it. I don't know who they are. See, if we start to play devil's advocate and we go at this from the side of there should be a standard, and even within schools there should be a perfect standard. Okay, so people with physical limitations can never earn rank. That's what you're saying. If somebody comes in with a wheelchair, are they ever going to be as good at some of the skills, like jumping kicks, as people who have two solid legs? No. Well, the jumping kicks are in the curriculum over there. Well, yeah, but we make an exception. Then it's not a standard. And what we get to when we start to look, and this is, to me, this is the beauty of traditional martial arts, it is on a much more case-by-case basis. You've spent enough time training. I bet a lot of the audience out there has spent enough time training. You can identify someone's rank, or at least relative rank, based on your experiences, the schools you've trained in, just by watching them, whether or not they're wearing a belt. You look like you're about this. I could watch someone for 10 seconds. I can watch people do a single form, and I can get pretty close to where in my background they would fit. And that is what we tend to see in most martial arts schools. There are things that we want you to know these forms. We want you to know these techniques. We want you to be able to do this, that, or the other. But are they applied equally? If I know the form and you know the form and 17 other people know the form, do we all know it exactly as well? Are we able to do it exactly at the same standard? Well, I'm putting more speed and you're putting more power in, but speed is more celebrated in the curriculum in this school than power. So you can't advance even though you know it, and you're blowing the doors off with power until you generate your speed. That doesn't happen. So what I think really ends up happening, and I'm not accusing you or anybody of this, because it's this question gets kicked around a lot, and I think it is an interesting question from a philosophical and academic standpoint. And if it ended there, I'd have no issue with it. But what it turns into is an excuse to tear people down for the training that they have done. I can't tell you how many people out there, I mean, And I'm not big about laying out credentials, but I'll put them out here because I think it's relevant to this discussion. The point that I'm going to make. I have a 5th degree in my karate school. I have technically they awarded me 4th. They said, we're going to get you to 5th. Somebody else got together with a group of people. They gave me a 5th. It's a whole thing. I'm not super comfortable with it, but we'll call it. So I have a 5th in karate. I have a 3rd in taekwondo. I have a 3rd in superfoot kickboxing. I have met plenty of people, and I've been training since 83. So 43 years, 42 and a half years of training. Not that years training necessarily make anything, but when we throw all this together, we can put it in a bucket and we can say, Jeremy's been around a little while. He's done some stuff. He knows some things. There are plenty of people out there who have been training less time. I think most people would objectively say have lesser skill and have higher rank. What does that say about them or about me? Nothing. Doesn't matter, because their belt is from their school and I don't train in their school. And to look at them and to get mad about it is to be jealous. I want more stripes on my belt. And some people get so far on this that they kind of blow out sideways and they start putting stripes on their own belt. Okay, great. Doesn't change your skill. And here's where I kind of back into this argument when we still get people that are resistant to what I'm saying. Okay, so in your school, when people get older and their physical skills suffer, you demote them. No. Then it's not just about the skill. If you are absolutely willing to say that you have to meet these physical standards, then you are not promoting people who have physical limitations and you are demoting people as they age. If we're going to do that, we have to be consistent. And I don't know any school that does either of those two things. So we have to accept the fact that there is never has been, and never will be a universal standard of what a black belt means. There are schools where a black belt means you understand the root philosophy and curriculum and everything that we've got. And everything from here is refinement. That's the school I was raised in. Once I reached Shodan, 1st degree, there were no additional forms. There was no additional material. And after that, there was also no physical test. It was all based on observation. You're now a Nidan. You're now a Sandan. I earned my, my 4th Dan was over breakfast. I was eating eggs. We're going to promote you to 4th. You're going to what now? Right? It was ridiculous. And are there people who will look at that and say, you didn't test for it? They've known me since I was 4 years old. They know what I can do. They know this, whether or not I'm meeting the standards. And as an aside, if you're putting people in your tests that you don't know what they can do, then that is a different sort of environment, and that's not one I'm familiar with. You do you. Okay. I get really, if you can tell, passionate. I get really bent out of shape about martial artists tearing other martial artists down. Because most of us agree martial arts is amazing. Martial arts is the most universally applicable engine for personal growth I am familiar with. You plunk someone down in a school that fits them, even somewhat, give them 6 to 12 months, and they're going to come out a better person. Maybe not better. Maybe you get 2-3 people and they don't come out better in the same way. This person improved at discipline and this person improved physically. Great, they're better people. But the more we tear it down, the more we tear each other down, the more we are communicating to society at large that there is a right and a wrong way to train, and you limit the participation of others. And I can back this up with numbers. The United States has half of the participation in traditional martial arts that we see globally. That's not very good. We think of ourselves as leaders in everything. But here in the US, you are half as likely to be training as you are being from a random country. Not every country, right? These are global statistics, so it all gets averaged out. And yes, there are countries that skew it, like Korea. But we should be one of the top. We should be above average. But we're not, because we spend way more time saying, oh, you should train this, otherwise you're wrong, instead of saying, hey, you should train. I bet you've seen this. I bet most of the audience has seen this. Someone poses a question on social media. I'm thinking about doing martial arts. What should I do? An ignorant question, because they think from popular culture, the most important thing is the style that they choose. Where do you live? When do you have available to train? What are your goals? Have you done any training before? These questions are all far more relevant. If you tell someone that this particular flavor of Wado-roo is the best thing for them and everything else is crap, and they don't have a school that trains in that anywhere near them, then they hear, I might as well not train. And to me, that's a horrendous shame.
Yeah, no, I agree 1,000,000% with that. Yeah, there's the whole kind of style wars and things like that is silly, because it's not a one size fits all, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu may be great for John down the street, but not so much for Sue around the block. And
Right.
as much as I love Kempo, as much as I love Capoeira, as much as I love all the different arts that I train, there are times I wouldn't give that blanket recommendation for anybody. And yeah, location is a huge reason why I'm at the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school that I'm at is because they have a morning, a noon, and a night class.
Nice.
And I can go to the 6 a.m. class if
That's awesome.
they didn't have that. I wouldn't be there. So yeah, location is, and that is saying there is a jiu-jitsu school that I almost joined that's not even 5 minutes away from my house, but yet I go to a school farther away because of the environment.
It's a better fit for you.
It's a better fit. So
Yeah.
that's huge.
In order for someone to say that something is the best, they have to have familiarity with everything else. I don't know too many people who have cross-trained more than you and I. You and I have done a lot of cross-training. There are more arts that I haven't done than I have. And even most of the ones I've done, I haven't done to the level to say, I really know what this is. I can say that about 3 of them. Maybe 4 or 5, right? Not all, not hundreds, because yes, there are hundreds. And, oh, wait, you mean that school teaches the same thing? They both came up under, 2 schools came up under this person and they teach it dramatically differently? Yeah. So now it's not the style, it's about the school. At the end of the day, life is hard. Find a place to train. Be happy with where you train. If you're not happy with where you train, go train somewhere else, because, and if you don't have anywhere else, find a way to enjoy what you're doing, because any training is better than no training. And if somebody tells you that you are wrong for that, you are welcome to give them my contact information and I will set them straight. And I don't mean that in a physical threat. I mean, I will debate them, because no one's been able to present arguments to what I'm saying that prove me wrong. I will logic the crap out of this and show you that you are wrong.
I like it. All right. So we are going to move into what I call our lightning round here as we head towards wrapping up. And for the listeners, viewers out there, yes, I know we didn't get into the origins of whistle kick and all of that. So we will save that for part 2, or you can find another podcast or whatever you want to do. Well, I know, but I can't have 12-hour shows as much as I would probably like to. Yeah. So, yeah, we're going to move into our lightning round here. So, first question there. Do you have a favorite technique?
Right now, it's Shuto. Open hand.
Nice, nice, nice. I like it. All right. Next question. Do you have a favorite form, set, kata, pumse, however you want to phrase it?
My favorite kata, and it had to become my favorite because I've done it a bajillion times. The Ishinu version of Kusanku. It's what I used as my competition form for many years.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. Next question. Do you have a favorite weapon?
Sai. I competed with Sai pretty heavily. Love the Sai. Do not find it to be super practical other than developing forearm strength. And really, my love for Sai came from Raphael of the Ninja Turtles and just kind of loving him.
Very nice, very nice, and hopefully I haven't jinxed it. But as we are recording here, I did get confirmation that I will be having a man by the name of Ken Scott on a future episode. And for those that don't know who he is, he played Raphael in the original Ninja Turtles movie.
That's a great get, dude. Nice job.
So yeah, I'm excited for him to be on, and yeah, we're gonna definitely talk some turtles and all that good stuff. All right, so then the next question: if there was anyone that you could train with, living or dead, fictional or non-fictional, who would that be?
Joe Louis.
Oh, nice.
Because so I got Whistle Kick going and I got the podcast going just a little bit too late to have met him. But so many of the people that I love training with and look up to the most have said amazing things. If you know anything about Bill Wallace, you know what he's known for. You know he's known for being an incredible kicker. You know who Bill Wallace has said has the best sidekick of all time? Joe Louis. So even though I would probably get the snot beat out of me because that was part of how he liked to train, I would do it anyway because I feel like there's a missing piece.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, Joe Louis is definitely there are names out there that get brought up that are just always like that's the person to train with. That's the person to know. That's the you don't hear any of the you don't hear any bad things about it. And Joe Louis is one of those people. Superfoot is one of those kind of people. So yeah, I like that answer. I'm trying to think. I don't think anybody has picked him. So I like that. So your first one there. All right. Then the final question there. So, what is something that always motivates you to train, and or something that you'd like to put out there for others to motivate them to train? So, I use the example of the movie Rocky IV when he's doing the training montage and the music's going and he's chopping the wood and running through the snow and lifting the boulders and things like that. Yeah. I see that scene and I'm just all right, it's time to go and hit the mats and get to work. So what is something like that for you, or something that you would want to put out for others to motivate them?
It's not just about you. It's about others. We've all been in classes. Well, I don't know, maybe there's somebody out there who hasn't trained much. Most of us have been in classes where some of the key people were gone and the class didn't feel the same. The emotion was low, the energy was low, and you don't get as much out of it. Even if you're not working with those people. But when they're there, everybody has a better experience. Be one of those people. There are days, I have a school. There are days I do not want to go teach. You know, something rough happens in my day job or something. I go anyway. Not because I necessarily have to, because I have assistants. I could call out. But even when I'm training with others, even when I'm on the floor as a peer, my job is to, yes, show up and do the best I can for myself, but also to show up and be the best training partner I can and bring the most energy I can and help cultivate the environment, because everybody's responsible for that, and make it a place that everybody comes away having learned a lot and smiling. And I know that I have influence over that. I know everybody has influence over that. That's my motivation.
I like it. All right, so we are now at our final piece of business for today, and that is the shameless self-promotion. So you can plug anything that you'd like, or if there's anything that we haven't covered that you wanted to make sure that we got out today, you have the floor, and then we'll close out from there.
All right, thank you. Well, thanks for having me. Whistlekick, as you've mentioned, is the company that I founded, and we are rooted in a very simple philosophy to connect, educate, and entertain the traditional martial artists of the world. We have a goal of getting everybody in the world to train for at least 6 months, because we believe that is the simplest way to make the world better. And in order to do that, we have a podcast, Martial Arts Radio. We have a tournament league. We produce events, including Martial Summit, on an annual basis. And we have an entire product line, from protective equipment to, we have uniforms, apparel, mugs, from the fun to the functional. And the best place to find all of it is at whistlekick.com.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, I gotta stock up on some gear and get some stuff. But yeah, I'm just thankful for having you on. It's been a joy to talk to you, and of course you have an open invitation to be on anytime, and we can get into more things and more specific topics. But yeah, I'm just hugely a fan. I've been listening to episodes and getting caught up. And gosh, I didn't realize how.
It's a tall order.
Oh, you've got well over 1,000 episodes at this point.
11.
And
what were you? Because yours came out yesterday. You're 11 and change.
1104, I think.
1104. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I just I've been going back and looking at who you've had on, and it's like, oh, like they got to talk to this person, they got to talk to that person. I'm quite excited to that. So yeah, working my way through the back catalog as well. But nice. Yeah, just once again, I thank you for being on, and I can't wait for all of my listeners and viewers now to check this out. And yeah, thank you again.
Thank you.